Hello everyone, welcome back. So in our Appium framework series, today we are going to see how we can set up the driver object and then or initialization of the driver object for both Android and iOS in our Appium framework. So if you would have seen our first session of the Appium framework, this is the tree structure that we have discussed, each and every folder structure or the packages or the components that you can say. How do we need to design? So this is kind of a skeleton of our particular framework, and we'll keep this as our reference for our upcoming sessions. Fine. So out of this particular all the components, today we are going to see the driver actually. How do we focus into the driver initialization? Okay. So for this actually there are a couple of things I want to highlight. One is the application. Right, so we need to find out an application that would kind of support for both Android and iOS, right? So I'm going to recommend about the Sauce Labs application actually, and this is kind of now into the archive mode, but you need not to worry about that. There are a lot of things you can do with this application, but then you can opt for any other kind of application that you have handy actually there. So just to give you a brief, APK file, you can download it and install into the Android. IPA file if you have a real device for your iPhone devices or tablets, and then .zip file or .app file after you unzip is for your simulators. Now I have already this simulator, you can see that, and I already installed this particular application by dragging that particular zip file after unzipping it. So here is what actually the application look like. This application is very much similar if you install that into the Android platform as well. Now here it is a e-commerce demo application. You can see that there are a lot of category of different items that you can purchase. You can go to the cart. To add to the cart, you need to log in with the username and password, and here you can see the username and password is there. There is a menu options. You can see that different options that you can go for, like web view, geolocation, drawing, or you can go to the about, face ID, log out. All these things are there. You can even go with. So there are a lot of navigations, a lot of different features, the Appium elements that you can automate and practice yourself with your framework designing. Okay, now we understood about the application which we are going to take it further. Now concept wise, right, like if you were with me from past couple of Appium sessions, you would have seen that the Appium topics that I have built this GitHub code where we have understood a lot of concepts in bits and pieces, right, like the app driver, app factory, server creation, util.java, and there are a lot of topics that we can see like gestures, scrolling, and all these concepts. So I will be taking something from here as part of our framework designing. Okay, so as I told, we will be focusing into the driver initialization, right? And for that I have created a new repo, or I have cleaned up my existing repo which I had, so that we can take it from the scratch. And you will see I have only the Maven actually here. This is a pure Maven project, and I have taken some name like group ID and artifact, and I have only two dependencies here. One is actually the Java client, which is latest by the time I'm recording this session, and then the test.ng also to the latest version. Okay, and once you will be adding this, you will be installing all the components of these dependencies. And I have simple Maven compiler plugin, and then Surefire plugin is also there. For now we will not be focusing into the Surefire plugin, but I'm just talking about the skeleton of this particular pom.xml only. And you can see that my main.java and test.java is completely empty because I will be adding this stuff into this. Okay, fine. Now let's go to the source main Java and then create a new package actually here. Let's say that I will be giving this name as a driver. Okay, some actually you can give inside a base package. You can create a base package, and under that you can create a driver, but I'm just keeping as a driver, and I will be taking another package as base. So base and your driver will be parallel to each other. Fine. Under this driver I will be creating couple of .java files. So one is actually here I will say app driver, okay, which should, and I will be just adding to my git repo, and then I will be creating another class. Let's say that app factory. Okay, app factory. You can give any name actually. It shouldn't be like strict to this actually. This should be refactor, rename, and this should be app. Okay, fine. So these are the two different things that I'm taking here. Now let's come back to here actually, which we will be copy pasting certain logic actually into this. As you can see, app driver and app factory is there. Now what are these concepts? Let me first copy paste and then I will be explaining them a little about this. Now I will be focusing into the app factory. So here I will be just copying this and then going to my code repo, and here I will be pasting this. Okay, what am I doing here? So here basically I'm taking actually two different methods. One is to launch the Android simulator or real device. Another method to launch your iOS simulator or the iPhone real devices. Now here actually this method, Android launch app, will accept all the options related to your Android actually, like your app package, app activity, or you want to reset it, all those options it will be taking. Now because we were taking the Appium topics for different applications, right, I haven't taken this these options here. If you would see that, I used to take it from here actually, because different applications will have different details, right? But when we are building the framework, right, we are only focusing one kind of application only. So that's why instead of taking it from a different location, I will be adding it into this. So I may not be keeping these options as my parameter. But what you can do, you can create actually a separate actually kind of a method actually here, like which would grab all your options from a separate file. Okay, like I have mentioned here about this app data, right? So you can create a app data package or a directory. Under that you can keep like Android and iOS. Android will have all these options like device name, platform name, bundle ID, and then this utility method, whatever you will be creating, it would take all the data by reading that JSON file and create this option for you. But at this moment, because we are at the starting level, I will be putting it here actually, and then we will be dynamically getting it from a file actually there. So what I'm going to do here, because I'm using this particular source lab, right, I will be pulling these data from here actually. So if you see that, these are the different data that I need, but for iOS, right, so I will be taking this actually as my options. So I'll copy this one and then I need to paste it here actually. Okay, and here I may not be getting any options, and here XQ test, let's import it. And this is my bundle ID, the application that I have installed. The bundle ID is this actually here. Fine then, and you can see that this option I'm passing to this particular driver. So the driver initialization is done. Now you will see there is a method actually I've created, app driver.set driver. If you go to my app driver, there is nothing. So let me pull it from my existing here actually. So I'll explain about this. What am I doing here? So I'll first copy paste here. So this is a simple getter and setter concept here. So it means that I'm taking like the web driver. So I'm first setting the driver object and I'm getting it. Now what is the use of this if I do this? Now this will be helpful if you want to take it to this driver object, you want to share it across any of your framework folder structure. Let's say you are creating an utility method, okay, for taking a screenshot that need the driver object, right? But my driver object is where actually, if you see my driver object is here. How can I take from this app factory this driver object to any of my other folders or files of my framework? That's where I need a shared option, right? That is where actually I'm creating this setter and getter concept. Even you can implement the singleton pattern also. Let me do that. So here I will be creating one private instance actually. So private static, and I will say app driver. So this is basically a class object I'm creating, and that is called as instance equal to null. I'm creating a private what do you call, private instance of this, so that so singleton pattern means what? So it says that you cannot create an instance outside of this class. That's why I'm making it as private, so that the driver object which I instantiated right here, that will not be reinstantiated during your execution actually there. That's the logic actually here. How do I change it? So I will be creating couple of methods. First thing is that I will create one private constructor actually here. So app driver, a simple constructor, an empty constructor I'm using, so that nobody else can create the object outside this class. And I will be using one get instance method actually. So I will be keeping that public and then static, and then I will be creating this one get instance, and here this should be app driver D capital actually here. So here, and then this instance will say that if my instance is null, then only you create this instance actually there. So I'll do like this, and then I will say instance equal to new app driver. So this is what I'm creating. See, I'm creating a private constructor. It means that I can only create the object of this particular class in this particular class itself only. And then because it asked me to return this particular object, right, app driver object, it means that this instance I want to return it here. So I will say return instance, and that's how this error is gone. Now I need to utilize it into the getter and setter concept. So now here what I'm going to do, return driver dot get is fine. Now set I'm doing here. Now in this set actually you can see that drivers dot set I'm doing. Now see, if you see this driver dot get, right, now this is where I will be creating the, now this driver dot get is what it is doing. This driver, it is what you call returning, right? So whenever in any of my files, Java classes, I want to get this driver object, I will say that app driver dot get driver. But at this moment if you see that this driver dot get is coming from here and it is setting from here, but where I'm going to use this instance, because I need to say, right, if it is already created then you don't need to create it. So that's where actually what I'm going to do, instead of getting this get driver, right, I will be creating the instance of this. So after this instance I need to call actually. So if you're not understanding what I'm going to do, I will create another public static, and then here I will say that here actually this should be web driver, and then I will say get current. I'm just giving a different name here, get current driver, and inside this I will be doing that return not just this driver object, actually driver object, rather than the instance of that driver. So it means that we should hold only once. So I will say get instance. Now get instance, whenever I'm doing what, it is returning app driver, right? Now dot, what is that actually? So I'm saying get driver actually. So here get instance dot get instance means what actually? So this will be creating only one time only. If the object is created second time, it won't create that. So get instance means what? Instance. Instance means what? It is the app driver's instance, right? Now this particular object, by using this object, I can call this particular method, right? Because it is within the same class. So by creating an object, I am accessing this particular object actually here. So in fact this particular get driver, right, I can remove this static so that nobody can access by using this app driver. They have to call this particular get current driver. That's why I'm making this as static. And this set driver also you need to keep it into the static so that I can use it from this app driver concept. Now here you can see app driver dot set driver. It means that I'm instantiating the driver object here and then passing it into the app driver actually. And this is where actually I'm using the singleton pattern. Now wherever I want to use this driver object, I don't need to call this actually app factory dot driver. Rather what I'm trying to do that app driver dot get current driver actually I'm doing. So get current driver will hold the instance of that driver which is created only once actually there. Okay, so this concept is clear. Now what is the error it is showing? Let's okay, so here you have to actually, this is Java 11 I'm using, so here you have to use this particular WebDriver actually here. Okay, fine then. So now let's come back to this app factory. Now here you can see app.appdriver.setDriver. Now wherever I want to use it in other files, I need to do this appdriver dot get current instance. Actually I need to do this here. Actually I could not able to call it. Now let's say that here itself I want to call, so I will say appdriver dot get current driver. Like this I can use it, which is returning the WebDriver only. Here you can see the driver dot appdriver means instance of that driver actually there. Okay, fine then. So now the same thing I will be doing for Android as well. So for this actually I will be copying from this Android sample test. Don't worry, I'm not doing anything separate actually. These things already we have discussed. So I'm just quickly doing all these things. And here I'm not going to take these options. And then here I'm just setting up something, you can change it later. And then here app package, app activity driver, here you can import this and then everything is fine. And here also I'm setting the driver. See, the thing is that at any execution instance, right, whenever you are running the test, either this method will be called or this method will be called. You cannot call these two methods in one test case, right? Because we are using only one instance of the driver, so you cannot change it. So for that, how do we ensure that you are running the test cases into Android or into iOS? So there are a lot of different options. Like let's say that I can pass the testng XML parameters, right, that the platform equal to, I can say Android. So I can pull that Android from your testng.xml. Or let's say I can create one properties file, and let's say I'm telling that the platform equal to Android. So I can pull that here. Like I will tell you another logic also here. So let's say I'm creating one public static, and then I will say void, and here I will say launch app. I'm just selling this actually here. Now here generalized, and you can even make it as private also, because I don't, and then here this actually, and here also you can make it as private actually. So I'll show you why am I doing all this logics here. Now let's say that here into this base I will create one concept called app data. You will understand actually what am I doing here. Now this app data, it will hold all of your configuration data actually there. For an instance, I will create, as I told, that the app data could be inside a JSON file, inside a properties file, anything that you can use it. But I'm taking a different approach actually, kind of an alternate to your properties file. So here I will be using a variable actually. So there, so public static string, and I will say platform equal to, so I will say system dot get property, and here I'll say platform, some variable name. Now this is nothing but the variable name. You can take that as a key value pair actually. And here the default option I'm telling that, let's say iOS. Okay, like this I'm keeping actually one option here. It means that now it is the same concept. If you're creating a properties file, so you can simply say that platform equal to iOS if you are creating a properties file. I'm just taking a different approach. Now what is the benefit of creating this? What is this system.getProperty? If you guys are familiar with the Maven, right, we are using the Maven command line tool, right, to execute our test cases. You can say that Maven clean test. Okay, so it would execute all of your test cases. Now like this concept, mvn clean test, you are normally telling this as part of your CI/CD pipeline or any command from the command line. But I can even pass it the platform from here instead of hard coding it into a properties file or a JSON file. So what I can say like this, d platform equal to, I can pass iOS or I can even pass Android. Now what would happen, you know, whatever you are sending with this variable, right, this platform name is very similar to this one. So it means that if you are not passing any parameter from your Maven command line, it would take it as default actually whenever you will call this variable in your framework. If you are sending a different value, then this platform will assign this value by overriding this one. So that's the magic of this actually there. Okay, so you can run by using this command from ADO pipeline, from Jenkins, Circle CI, whatever or even from command line as well. So that's the benefit of that. That's why I would always suggest to not to hard code inside a properties file, but rather than use this so that you will get two benefits. Fine then. Now our logic is to kind of fetch that particular variable from this app data. How can I access it? A simple logic. I will say that app data dot, I'll say platform. Okay, so here I will say this concept, if app data dot platform dot contains, let's say that iOS. So I will simply say that what, app factory dot launch Android iOS applications, right? iOS application. Else, let's see what is the error here. It is coming. Okay, it's just method signature here. Else I will say that app factory dot, I will say that Android launch. Even you can put an if else condition also, because think about if the user is giving, for an instance, Android something they are giving. Now it won't match and it will launch your Android, right? So that's why you can even specify the exact value that you are looking for. I think here I need to give another, yeah. So here if else condition, here I'll say else, here I will say else if app data contains Android, and then that's where actually you will be launching this one actually here. Control X, you can even put it inside a switch case statement also, and also you can put another else condition. Else there is nothing, you can even throw a new skip exception actually. Here you can say, so throw new skip exception, and you can say that like this, some information you can give, because see, if you're not putting iOS or Android, there is no point of launching the simulator, right? You can simply skip that particular test case. So that is what actually the concept, so you can use it. Fine. Now what will happen, you know, this launch app, you will not be really need to, I mean, you need not to determine yourself actually. From Android test case, I need to call this Android launch app. From iOS, I need to call this. You simply do this launch app. Now the question comes, where should I call this launch app? Now for that, you need to use this concept actually here, base test. This base test will determine at what instance your driver instantiation should happen. Now in a normal logic, like think about when exactly the driver should instantiate, or when exactly, so when I'm saying driver instantiation, initialization, it means that launching the simulator, launching the application actually, when exactly it should happen, just exactly before to your test case running, right? So it means that you can use the before test and after test concept also, or you can use the listeners. Now let's say that I want to create the base test, right? So I will create it this actually base test, and here I will be putting the after before test concept. So let's say that I'm using the test ng concept, right? So I will be putting public static void, and here I will say launch app, something I'm telling here, and then I will say that app factory dot launch app. See, I'm not doing anything actually, I'm simply writing this logic only here. Now what will happen, I can create a simple here actually, sorry. Now how do I call, I mean how do this particular before test will execute? I'm just showing a demo actually, but in detail we will see in our upcoming sessions. So I'll create a package, let's say that tests, okay, and under this tests actually I'm creating another package, let's say Android, okay, sorry, iOS, because I'm dealing with iOS now. and then I will say here, let's say that a new test case I'm creating, let's say login test or launch test, whatever the name that you give actually here. Fine. And then here I'm creating a test method actually here. So I will say public static void, and I will say launch app, some name I'm giving actually here, and then I will say @test. Fine. And here what I'm going to do, how do I launch this actually there, right? I don't want to write the launch app concept here. So what I'm going to do here, I'll say extends which test, base test. That's it. Now if I have one or multiple or hundreds of test cases, I will just extend it. Now this particular base test will determine which simulator I need to launch, and that is where actually this launch app will determine from where it is coming from here. So now let's understand from where to where my test case control is going. Now what is the execution triggering point? This is the test case. Either I will be going from test.ng.xml or from maven command, whatever I will do, that will directly come to this particular test case. That this is my first triggering point. From here, the first thing it will see that there is a parent class is there. What is that? Base test. Now let's go to the definition. This base test will have a before test. This before test goes to the launch app logic. Now if you are coming here, this determines actually launching up, decides whether to launch the Android and iOS. How it is going? Based on my app data actually. That's how this particular thing is deciding, based on that app data class actually, the variable. Based on that it is launching this one, and while executing this particular logic, it determines the getter and setter. It means that now wherever I want to use, let's say consider that this is my page object. So what I can do that if I want to get my driver object, so what I can do, app driver, I'll say get current driver. That's it. Now I can use all my driver logics, whatever it is there. Okay, so that is how actually you will be setting up. Now this is for a demo, kind of a a kind of an empty. I wanted to show how to launch the application without writing any logic. But if you see here, we are writing lot of logics actually here. Like if you go to this particular test, first we are setting up this, and then after that we are instantiating that, and then getting the driver object. You can see Appium server. Now I can even do that as well. I can set the Appium server, I can call it. I'll show you that in our upcoming sessions. So it means that you are basically hiding the implementation, okay, so that you can focus into your test case writing and execution only. Okay, so that is what actually I wanted to showcase. So I won't be taking it long actually. For now we have understood how to instantiate the driver object and then set it up so that the other files can use it, and then how are you kind of launching the application without letting that test worry about whether to launch the Android and iOS. So hope this particular session is helpful. We will see some more interesting topics by taking it further by some other framework component creation. Stay tuned and do subscribe to this YouTube channel. We will be seeing some more interesting topics in our upcoming sessions. Thank you for watching.